All right, so I've just chucked it in our rewatch notes there. So do you want to just go ahead and pronounce that flower name for us, please, Jen?
Yes. I think it is called chrysanthemums.
And what I heard was the flower of Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth.
I was watching. I was like half paying attention to this movie, and I thought somebody said the flower of Chris Hemsworth, and I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rewatch podcast. My name is Samuel,
And I'm Jaden.
and this is a podcast where we rewatch classic or current films weekly and then decide whether they deserve a rewatch from you. Before we begin, a like on this video would be most appreciated. You can subscribe if you'd like. If you're tuning in on Spotify or another major podcast app, you can find us on YouTube by searching The Rewatch.
Yes, we've got a
Right.
lot of new stuff coming out.
Yes, we do. It's very exciting. So if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, you can head on over and subscribe if you would like. We're not going to force you to, but
No.
if you want to, go ahead. All right, so this week we watched Enola Holmes, which is just released on Netflix. Did you have a fun time watching this movie?
Yeah, I did actually. I enjoyed it more than I'm trying to think what we watched last
The
time.
Devil All the Time?
The Devil All the Time. I definitely enjoyed it more than that.
Yeah, okay. Oh, that's good then, because Netflix has obviously released two pretty major movies about a week apart. So
Yeah.
Netflix is doing well at the moment, I'd say anyway. So Enola Holmes is a 2020 American mystery film, which is based on the book in the series of the same name by Nancy Springer. The story is about the teenage sister of the already famous Sherlock Holmes, who goes to London in search of her mother, who has disappeared.
Mm.
So quite some notable names in this movie. So we have Millie Bobby Brown, who many people would know from Stranger Things.
Yep.
She's also in some of the Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
She plays Enola Holmes. Henry Cavill, or Henry Cavill, I think it's Cavill. He's obviously Man of Steel.
Mm-hmm.
Sherlock Holmes, he plays Sherlock Holmes here. Sam Claflin, he's obviously from Me Before You, also in The Hunger Games. And
What does he
some
play
of
in the
the-
Hunger Games?
I don't know. He's I think he's one of the contenders, if I'm not mistaken. Or he's a friend of whoever Jennifer Lawrence's character is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So he's Mycroft Holmes. We also have Helena Carter, who's Eudoria Holmes. Many people would know her from Harry Potter.
Yes.
She plays Bellatrix Lestrange.
Yep.
And we also have Lewis Partridge, who plays Tewkesbury, and he's in Paddington 2, but he's not really a main cast member. So I tried to look up what
Relevant
some of the
film
projects
for each of them. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's more coming onto the scene, I think, at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think he's good in this, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to our general thoughts. So we'll keep it spoiler free for those who haven't seen the movie yet. We'll just go through some of the pros and cons. A definite pro for me was Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah, definitely.
She's very charming in this movie, isn't she? She's very, very good.
Yeah. I think I'm not sure if you wrote this down, but often she like breaks the fourth wall.
Yes, definitely.
And
Yeah.
I think honestly, like she was a really good pick for that. Like something about her acting style, and her charisma kind of just fits so well with that breaking the fourth wall. And it's also
Yeah.
kind of like Ryan Reynolds' character. It's just certain characters just do it really well, and I think she did a perfect job of doing that.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard thing to pull off, breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
That actually appears in my cons, but we'll keep it positive at the moment.
Okay.
Henry Cavill as Sherlock Holmes. I mean, how can you not love that?
Such a good casting choice. Whoever casted the film did really well.
I feel like whoever cast the film was like, okay, we need people to see this movie. What can we do? Let's get Millie Bobby Brown. Let's get
Boom,
Henry
Henry
Cavill.
Cavill.
Let's get Superman in, guys. That's going to draw some eyes, and it
Yeah,
did. That's for sure. He gives a very wholesome performance, I think, as Sherlock.
yeah.
He doesn't. This isn't a Sherlock Holmes movie, and rightfully so. But I think I wouldn't be against perhaps a Sherlock spin-off film with Henry Cavill, but
Neither will I. To
Henry
be honest.
Cavill is
Yeah.
going to be very busy, so maybe he's not going to have time between Superman and The Witcher. He's a busy man,
Oh yeah,
so
he's doing The Witcher now. Yeah.
he's involved in a lot of very popular things at the moment, so good on him.
Have you watched The Witcher?
No, I haven't, but it is on
Neither.
my
Yeah.
to-do list. Apparently, it's very good.
Yeah.
So I think this film could probably be classified as a light-hearted coming-of-age film
Hmm.
for Enola Holmes. And I didn't really think it was a mystery film because obviously that's the genre that's sort of attached to the Sherlock Holmes character.
Yeah.
He's a detective, and so a lot of movies, I guess the TV shows are sort of based around that mystery element. Is that right?
Yeah. So the TV show, which was Benedict Cumberbatch, was basically around that, but the movie Robert Downey Jr. was also kind of like that as well. I was gonna
Yeah.
say, um, I did consider this a mystery film because obviously we had Millie Bobby Brown's character Enola trying to figure out where her mother was.
Yeah.
It also kind of tied in with Tewkesbury, where he was trying to figure out whatever was going on with his family heritage. But I think at the same time, it was also kind of like a light-hearted film, and it was
Yeah.
obviously for fun. It didn't seem too serious.
Yeah, for sure. I think again, I think this is a great Netflix movie. I think as a normal movie, I think I probably would have been harsh on it. But
Yeah,
in terms of Netflix, essentially this movie is going to be able to be accessed by anybody because
yeah,
we all have Netflix. Let's be honest.
yeah,
And so I think this is a great addition. And I think if I was a paying Netflix subscriber, which I am, these sorts of movies like The Devil All the Time and Enola Holmes, if they keep movies coming like this, then I would have no problem paying that subscription.
and it's great that they're doing sort of unique stuff like this. Like obviously we've seen the Sherlock character a few other times, but you don't really see Sherlock, um, more so Holmes content in the media space. So it's great that they're kind of doing these new stories as well.
Yeah, it was good. I know there's a very big lawsuit about this movie because the estate of Sherlock Holmes apparently every now and then, as soon as a Sherlock Holmes property pops up, there's always a copyright lawsuit by the estate of Sherlock Holmes. So, like the descendants of Sherlock Holmes,
Oh
they
yeah.
try and they try and get a nice settlement every single time, like a Sherlock Holmes television series or a movie comes up, and so that's ongoing at the moment. But obviously, it hasn't stopped the release of the movie,
I
which
thought
is good.
Sherlock Holmes was a fictional character, so it must just be people with the same name.
Then it's the estate of the author, perhaps.
Ah,
It must
okay.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's my bad. I am very uneducated on Sherlock Holmes. I know you've seen
I saw the
some of the
movie.
previous.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't watch I said the TV show, but it was the movie. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so I'm going in completely uneducated about Sherlock Holmes here.
It's all good.
As you can see, I just thought he was a real person, but he's obviously not. Cons for me of this movie, I think the fourth wall breaking. Look, it's always hard to pull that off,
Yeah.
and I think at some stages it was maybe a bit overused, maybe a bit weird.
Okay.
Sometimes I found the camera was in very bizarre places, like there'll be a fourth wall break where the camera is directly above Millie Bobby Brown, like a bird's eye view, and it's like, why is the camera there? Like, and then sometimes the camera's in like a water barrel, and it's like I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, yeah. Okay, now I know what you're talking about.
the
Yeah.
the camera was often in very bizarre places, so I sort of found that I don't know a bit jarring
Yeah.
perhaps, but
Fair enough. Yeah.
um, but I appreciate how they used it a lot of the time.
Hmm.
Obviously, you can't. It's either she breaks the fourth wall in this movie, or you have a narrator.
Yeah.
And I think the fourth wall breaking was probably preferable, and I think Millie Bobby Brown pulled that off really well.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and I also think like it definitely started out as a mystery movie because of the disappearance of her mother. We obviously won't go into too much detail because it's spoiler free at this stage, but I
Mhm.
feel as though as the movie went along, it became less of a mystery movie and more of just like a light-hearted coming of age story.
Yep.
And that's like by no means a major negative. The movie was still good, but for fans of like the mystery movie genre, I feel like they'll like this movie less and less as the film goes along.
Towards the end, yeah, I kind of found like the story was kind of going off its tracks, and like
Yes.
towards the end I was kind of like a bit confused in a way, like I didn't quite understand the conclusion of the film.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was a
I
bit
found the
confusing.
conclusion to be a bit less than satisfying,
Okay.
perhaps.
It's definitely
But
nowhere near as unsatisfying as The Devil of All the Time.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the devil all the time just like ends abruptly,
Yeah.
and whereas this you can sort of you get a good sense of a this is the end of the coming of age story.
Yeah.
So it's by no means as bad as last week, but I feel like the story definitely goes off the train tracks, if you pardon the pun, because obviously there's a train involved in the story at some stage. And I felt like there we just departed a bit from the mystery theme, but that's okay. Different strokes for different folks.
Right, yeah. Let's dive into our more detailed thoughts. This is
Let's
including
go for it.
spoilers, so beware.
Yes, so if you have not seen the movie, obviously there are quite some major reveals, some twists along the way. So I'd advise that if you haven't seen the movie at this stage and you want to go watch it now. It's a good time.
Yep.
Would you recommend it, Jaden?
Yeah, I would actually. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It is a fun movie, and a lot of people, um, get free Netflix from a family member or something like that. So if you got Netflix, give it a watch. It's a good time.
Hmm.
All right. So my first thought in the movie, my first real educated, descriptive, and really analytical thought was: Is Sherlock Holmes always this hot, Jaden?
What?
In previous outings, is Sherlock is he always this hot? Like,
I mean, you got like Benedict Cumberbatch and Robert
yeah, you
Downey
got
Jr., but I'm not one to like talk about it considering I'm a
look
straight
like
male.
they come across to me as Sherlock Holmes has always come across as sort of like a
Like an older
nerdy, weird
person. Yeah.
character.
Okay, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And here we have literally Superman
Henry
playing
Cavill.
Sherlock Holmes. So yeah, how did you feel like the transformation of that character? Did you think it still works?
Yeah, I did think it still worked because obviously, Sherlock Holmes is younger than Mycroft, and I feel like they tried to set Sherlock Holmes up as the sort of mentor for Millie Bobby Brown's character, and I
Mm.
feel like having too old of a character um, would have just been a bit weird, and having a character that had a beard like a Robert Downey Jr.'s character, it would have just seemed weird having that massive age gap between Millie Bobby Brown
Oh yeah, sure.
and
Yeah.
say Robert Downey Jr. But I feel like having Henry Cavill there, because he's still quite a young actor, I think, and I could kind of imagine it in my mind that Henry Cavill is an older brother to Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah.
It didn't seem all that ridiculous to imagine.
Mm. Yeah. So has Sherlock Holmes sort of in previous outings always been a bit older than this current version?
Well, I'm not sure in terms of the age gap, but definitely looks older in the other
Yeah.
films and the other TV
Yeah.
shows. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. So we'll go back to the fourth wall breaking. How did you feel about that? Did you feel like, it was a bit forced? Did you feel it was a bit awkward at some stages, anything like that? Or did you enjoy it?
No, like I said before, I actually really enjoyed it. And I'm not the biggest fan of Millie Bobby Brown as an actor. But she's definitely matured since season one of Stranger Things, and seen interviews with her, in the cast of Stranger Things, and then seen interviews with her now on Netflix with Henry Cavill and stuff. she's definitely grown so much. Um, and I think, she's in this breaking the fourth wall sort of aspect in the film. You could have gone either way, but I think she definitely pulled it off. I didn't really see anything wrong going on there.
Yeah, she's very talented, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Obviously, a producer on the film as well, which is incredible
that's
because
insane. Yeah,
she is 16. And I will say, finally, we have a movie that depicts a 16-year-old and is in fact played by a 16-year-old.
16-year-old. Yeah,
Obviously, we
flashback
were just
to Spider Man.
yeah, we for the listeners, we were just recording a Spider-Man video that's going to go up on the YouTube channel soon, and we discovered that Tom Holland's 24, I think,
Yeah,
and we just found out that in Far From Home, so the latest installment of the MCU Spider-Man movies, Tom Holland's character, so Spider-Man, is supposed to be 16 years old,
that's insane.
and I thought he was at least 2 or 3 years old. As I said, I thought he was our age,
Yeah,
but he's not. So there's always been this major gap. I mean, and it gets worse as you go backwards as well with Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire.
I mean,
Like
Tom
it gets
Holland
to
kind
like
of looks, that age. You can kind of get away with
yeah,
it, but like Tobey Maguire, on the other hand, I think he was 18 in the first film, and he was
yeah,
played by a 24-year-old. Like,
yeah. It's
it's a
crazy.
bit weird.
Yeah, definitely. There's like I think the age gap in Tobey Maguire was 11 years, and Andrew Garfield was like 8 or 10 or something like that.
Why do they
It's
keep
crazy.
making this mistake?
So it's nice to actually have an actor who's playing their own age.
Yeah.
He's very convincing because of that, and probably the biggest push in terms of age is Henry Cavill in the movie.
Mm.
He's definitely supposed to be looking younger than he actually is,
Yeah,
but I feel like it works anyway,
yeah,
and yeah, so it was really refreshing to actually get a 16-year-old who's playing a 16-year-old.
yeah. Well,
Obviously, child actors, I think it's probably quite a sensitive issue because, what are the morals of, somebody who's under 18 being
yeah,
involved in such a major production like that?
yeah.
So it's obviously understandable that older actors have to play down their age.
Mm.
But yeah, I thought it was really good that Millie Brown was actually like phenomenal in this film.
Yeah.
So yeah, last week we obviously talked about Devil All the Time, and you could say that that was probably a fangirl's dream because we had Robert Pattinson and Tom Holland, who are British actors, putting on a very thick American rural town accent.
Yeah.
And this week we get quite the reverse because I'm pretty sure Cavill is American, and he's putting on a very British accent. And
See,
at
I
one
thought it was the
stage,
other way around. I thought Henry Cavill was British. Can do a
I'm
bit
not
of
sure.
it.
Let me check. Oh, he is English.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, well, that's wonderful then, because he's very good with his English accent. At one stage, he says, "Boy, fetch us a carriage," and it is fantastic how he executes his lines.
Top notch stuff.
That lovely British accent, and his curly hair, and all of that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I want to talk about Mycroft for a second. So Enola's other brother.
You going?
At the start, we get this sort of impression that Mycroft is not a fan of feminism because he picks up a book of
Yeah.
his mother's and says, "Oh, good God, feminism," and he like drops it. But that sort of confused me because I then went through the movie thinking that Mycroft was sort of like a not a fan of feminism, pushing sort of the conservative ideology that men should be in power and have the vote, because that's a prominent issue in the movie, the
Yeah.
politics of feminism and everything like that. But then at the end of the film, he's very happy about that the vote passed and that women were allowed to vote or something like that. Like, I don't know. What did you think? Did you think like he was not a fan of feminism?
Um, I didn't really pick up on that. Like, obviously, I saw the first scene where he picked up the book and oh, good God, feminism.
Mm,
But towards the end, I was so confused, and all these storylines were converging, and I was like, I wasn't really paying attention, and I kind of lost track of, you know, his character in general. So yeah, I didn't even see that, but that's a bit weird if that did happen.
Yeah, because I definitely started the movie thinking that he would vote against, and we see throughout the film he tries to um, make Enola a suitable lady in the eyes of society,
Hmm.
and then the story is sort of Enola, breaking through that barrier, and so Mycroft's like this conservative guy, but then towards the end of the film, he's very happy about the fact that the vote passed,
Mm.
which I don't know. It just seems weird because if he promoted feminism, then why at the start would he say, "Ew, feminism"?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
I don't know. That was like an inconsistency that I found. Maybe somebody who's watched it can hit me up on Instagram at the Rewatch Pod and let me know. Um, but yeah, I don't know, a bit of an inconsistency there.
I would like to see Mycroft in the 21st century when feminism is a lot more. Let's say feminism is a lot more uh, less useful now. It's not needed as much as it was in, I'm guessing, the 18th century. Oh God, I don't know.
Well, for sure, yeah, we've certainly come a long way. It would be, yeah, you got to say that we've definitely progressed.
Like feminism was definitely a movement back then, and it was 100% necessary. Like it's a bit
Yeah,
unfair that women didn't have the chance to vote. And
yeah,
seeing him, already being disgusted at feminism in its
yeah,
primal stages is like,
yeah.
okay, wait till you get to where we are. Moving
Yes,
at
wait till
least
you get to
following it.
Marvel. That's obviously just a joke. Yeah, look, it's the fact that feminism is a big theme in the movie, and I think the movie actually handled it very well because it stayed in its lane.
This is how
It's
I like it to be done. Yeah,
Yes, yeah, yeah, because you actually sympathize with the cause,
yeah,
and obviously, of course, you do. Sort of like the suffragette movement that we all know about, and the movie doesn't ever tell you what's right, what's wrong, or lectures the audience at any stage because obviously we have come a long way since then,
yeah,
and we're already like on the side. Of course, we want equality and everything like that, but back then conservative view was that no, no, thank you.
yeah,
Ew, feminism, exactly. So yeah, so I think the movie actually handled it really, really well,
yeah. I'd
and
say
that's a
so.
testament to the film. I didn't feel like I was being lectured or told anything at any
No, no,
stage.
it felt a lot more fitting because it was part of the storyline. Whereas,
Yeah,
recent movies like Endgame, where we see feminism come through, is it's basically, it's being shoved into the plot, and it's like we don't need this. If you're doing it, do it naturally.
yes, exactly. Work it into the plot, and that's what this movie does really, really well, I think.
Yeah.
Right. We'll progress on to a nice line that I got from Henry Cavill or Sherlock Holmes at one stage. He says, "Look for what's there, not what you want to be there. You'll see the truth soon enough." And this is said when Enola has been told that she's off to boarding school after her mother's disappeared, and she's being emotional,
Hmm.
and Sherlock's sort of saying, in the most Sherlock way possible, don't use your emotions. Look at what's there, not what you want to be there. You'll see
Obi-Wan
the truth soon
Kenobi.
enough. Exactly, very, very similar to Obi-Wan Kenobi. So like this wise look for the truth, no emotion. Your thoughts betray you. Your feelings betray you.
Yeah.
All of that, and it comes in later on in the film in a very nice way as well because um, Sherlock sort of does a reverse, or not really a reverse, but Sherlock has an arc in this movie too, which I
Yeah,
think is really nice.
definitely. Yeah.
He sort of becomes more of a caring individual
Yeah.
and less of a I don't know, a workaholic, I guess, or less emotionless
He
character.
becomes less attached to his career, and he starts to realize, I've got this sister as well that I can, mentor. And I think that line's really fitting for the growing of his character, because we've seen him at the start of the film. He's
Mm.
not the ward of Enola Holmes, but towards the end, he says to Mycroft, I think I might take Enola as my ward. So he kind of realizes, I'm going to mentor Millie Bobby Brown or Enola Holmes, and she can be
Mm.
the next protege of Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. There was a flower in this movie that led Enola Holmes on this sort of quest to find her mother.
Hmm.
I'm just trying to find what the flower was called because it had this really, really intricate name. And wanted to see if you could try and pronounce it, Jaden.
Yep.
But let me just try find it for a second. All right, so I've just chucked it in our rewatch notes there. So do you want to just go ahead and pronounce that flower name for us, please, Jen?
Yes. I think it is called chrysanthemums.
And what I heard was the flower of Chris Hemsworth.
Flower Chris Hemsworth.
I
What?
was watching. I was like half paying attention to this movie, and I thought somebody said the flower of Chris Hemsworth, and I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
Chrysanthemum, Chris Hemsworth.
Same thing.
It's a bit of a stretch, but
Same thing. Same thing. So I thought that was funny.
okay, yeah.
All right, so I got, I don't know about you, but I got Polar Express vibes
What?
at one stage
Oh,
because
okay.
primarily because they're on a train and they're trying to not fall off the train and get to the front of the train. It was sort of the first time where I've ever felt a movie gave off Polar Express vibes.
No, we actually made another reference to Polar Express. It was in Coco when we
Oh yes, of
talking
course,
about
yeah.
the what was it? It's
The
called,
animation
yeah, how
style.
characters start to look too realistic.
Yes. So shout out to Polar Express, been mentioned twice on the Rewatch podcast. So
The valley,
congratulations.
the uncanny valley. That's what it is. That's what we
Oh
brought up.
yes, yeah, yeah. So the mystery in this movie is that the mother has disappeared, and we sort of get hints as we go along, as sort of Enola tries to find out where she is,
Mhm.
about what the mother is up to. And did you ever, predict that she was a radical feminist and that she was practically planning a terrorist attack almost?
Oh
To
no,
obviously
no way.
find.
No, I didn't even
No
see
way.
it coming. I
No.
viewed Helena's and Millie Bobby Brown's relationship as kind of like a close mother daughter relationship, and
Mm,
obviously she shows more affection to her daughter, but I didn't even pay attention to that because she's obviously had two sons as well. So I mean that wasn't even in my mindset at that time. And then when she disappeared,
yeah.
I was thinking of all the different possibilities. Was it a murderer? Was it a kidnapping? Who knows?
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. I really enjoyed um, the start of the movie when Enola is searching for her mother and going through all the clues.
Yep.
And I feel as though if they just pursued that storyline, that and the movie finished with Enola discovering where her mother was,
Yeah.
it almost might have been a better movie for me personally. I would have
No, I
probably
agree with
enjoyed
that
it
as
more.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, because Enola sort of she sets out trying to find her mother and sort of gets sidetracked along the way with Tewkesbury, um, and then with Tewkesbury's story, sort of like a side story.
Yeah, and I think even at one point in the film, it's even said in a line that let's put finding my mother aside and go help
Yeah,
Tewkesbury. I think that was
yeah,
actually a line. I can't remember what it was, but
yeah. No, it was. Definitely was.
I
It
was,
was a fourth wall break.
yeah, and I was
Yeah,
just like, oh, come on, let's stick to the main story here. I don't want to
yeah.
see this kid.
You know what that reminded me of? It reminded me of like really long video games where they're like, "Oh, you want to continue the story? How about you do a side quest?" I'm like, "No, I want to do the main story, please. I want to spend 20 hours doing some, collecting wheat
Mary
bales for
Jane
this
Watson
person."
inspired.
Yes. I don't want to sneak around this newspaper building to try and, find
Take
some
some
clues.
photos.
I want to beat people up as Spider-Man. Come on. But yeah, so that's the vibe that I sort of got. I was like, oh, like, do we really need to get sidetracked here?
Yeah, because
But
I wrote at the start of the film, I wrote down that I love the scene where she was trying to decode where her mother was in the manor or wherever they were.
Yeah,
Um, and I wrote that everything's kind of showing backwards, like Enola's name, which is alone backwards.
yeah, it's
Um,
Tenet.
yeah, Tenet. But yeah, I found that interesting how they kind of used they played a lot of the clips backwards and then they played them forwards, and I don't know,
Mm.
it kind of felt fitting and different and unique in a way. And
It was weird. As soon as I saw that reversing of a scene, I was like, okay, whenever this is ever going to happen in a movie again, I'm only going to think of Tenet.
Tenet, yeah.
And Christopher Nolan's just like,
He's like claimed that film style.
yes, you reverse anything, it looks like my movie. Huh. So what did you think of Tewkesbury as sort of that storyline? Obviously, it was a bit of a sidetrack, but what did you think of, how that sort of developed the relationship between Tewkesbury and Enola,
um,
and that side quest and how it finished?
in no way did I really hate his character. It just kind of felt like I wasn't watching the film for that, and
Yeah,
and like watching the trailer and stuff and looking at the poster, I didn't even know that he was a relevant character in the story. I didn't even know this actor was
yeah,
playing anything. Um,
yeah,
so in no way or shape or form did I actually hate the performance that he played, but I felt that it was kind of taking me away from what I wanted to watch in the film, and
mm,
chucking me over there and saying, "Hey, watch this for 30 minutes," and I was like, "Oh, let's go back to the main storyline."
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I completely agree. That's exactly how I felt. I was like, okay, we started off really well here, and we've gotten sidetracked, and it's not a bad sidetrack, but I was more interested in what the mother was up to.
yeah,
And we never really actually get told what the mother is up to, but we can sort of place pieces of the puzzle together.
yeah,
um, but yeah, so I found that it was probably a waste of time. I don't know. I feel like the conclusion of this movie, why it doesn't really work, is because it is very rushed. If
mhm,
we did to jump ahead to the very ending, the mother just shows up. So the whole movie started off as Enola Holmes going on this quest to find her mother,
yeah,
and eventually her mother just finds her. And we're like, well, that's not really satisfying because we were going on this journey with Enola.
yeah,
And obviously, it's a nice, wholesome moment between Enola and her mum and them seeing each other again. But I feel like as a as I thought it would be a mystery movie, I was expecting like a finale where you go, oh, like
that's
that's an
what happened.
awesome
Yeah, yeah,
reveal.
mm,
But we never really get that. But that's okay. The movie does better in other areas. I just feel like the Tewkesbury side quest was
side quest.
just not necessary. Like, I mean, sure, it's probably necessary. I think it's probably in the book, um, so
I
it's
do
sort of confined to the source material there.
I do feel like keeping the at the start of the film, the two storylines were obviously very far apart, right? We meet
Yeah,
Nola and then we see Tewkesbury on the train, and they completely have no relevance to one another. But
yeah,
towards the end of the film, obviously, we were explained that there's this bill to vote for women's rights, and that I think it was it the uncle of Tewkesbury was trying to gain
yeah,
power or something, and
yeah.
I don't know, have some sort of relevance on the vote, and that again ties in with Enola Holmes and Eudoria, you I don't know what her name is, Eudoria, I think
Oh
it's
yeah,
Eudoria,
yeah,
and that ties in with Eudoria Holmes, and it kind of felt like yeah, it worked. We can see how the two storylines connect. But if they
mm,
had just kept them separate, or had just kind of scrapped the whole storyline with Tewkesbury and
yeah,
made it this film about Enola trying to find her mother, it would have
yeah,
just been done so much better and probably ranked higher on my list.
yeah,
Because it was advertised as a mystery film, not not this film about Tewkesbury who I didn't even know about.
yeah, yeah, for sure. But yeah, I feel as though the mystery element sort of just faded away from the movie as we went along.
Yeah,
Which is a bit of a shame for me because I was really enjoying that start.
yeah,
But regardless, I think this is another great Netflix film. I think the stars involved are really obviously well cast, and they give good performances too. So, without further ado, do you have anything else to add before we move on to the music segment?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I do like the relationship between Sherlock Holmes and Enola Holmes, and that
Mm,
Sherlock kind of understands that Enola doesn't want to conform with society, and yeah, so I do like the relationship that's established between Enola Holmes and Sherlock Holmes, and that Sherlock kind of understands that Enola doesn't want to conform with society, and
mm,
become this young woman and learn to be a woman. He understands that she wants to become a detective and be like her older brother, and I feel
yeah,
like that was done really well. And Henry Cavill, man, he was such a good choice for Sherlock Holmes in this film. And even though he wasn't, the main star of the film, he really shined for me. Um,
yeah.
yeah, so I do think that Henry Cavill and Enola Holmes, they kind of like bounced off one another, and it was really good chemistry between them, I think.
Yeah, I think the relationship there was one of the highlights of the movie. Definitely very wholesome towards the end,
Yeah.
because they sort of grow to or come together rather as the movie goes along.
I was also just going to put in here, right at the end when Enola and Tewkesbury are facing off against the bowler hat dude.
Mm,
And Enola grabs his ankle and does the ankle
yeah.
hold thingy, and then like she yanks him. There was like this really harsh cut to the dude like getting his head smashed onto this
Oh yeah,
pine cone thing, and it happened so instantly, and like I didn't expect it at all because there was like barely any like gore in the film, and then this popped up.
yeah.
I was like, "Holy Jesus!"
And and that death scene was so bad. Like
It was
I
pretty bad.
like obviously we're used to characters being hit with something or being stabbed and then having 30 seconds to talk to the main character before then
Yeah,
dying.
that was just instant.
But this guy, like, he gets his head knocked really hard, right? So theoretically, well, you're probably thinking like if your head gets knocked hard enough, you almost if you'll die immediately. You don't have like a couple seconds to be like, oh, what's going on? Oh, I'm dead.
Yeah.
And or you just get knocked unconscious. And I don't know, did the guy get knocked unconscious? I think he died.
I think he died as well. It was kind of left in the shadows. I don't really know what happened.
I think he had his eyes open.
Yeah,
So
well, when people die, they have their eyes open.
yeah, exactly. So I think he didn't fall. He wasn't unconscious. Which is weird. Like Enola Holmes just killed a man, and the death scene was really really bad.
Yeah, I don't know. He kind of seemed like a bit of a. He started off as quite an interesting character,
Mm,
this dude trying to hunt down Tewkesbury, and then towards the end,
yeah.
kind of seemed like a bit of a like what's the name? Like the fox from Dora the Explorer. He was kind
Oh
of
yeah.
like a really evil dude, but it was kind of like he was also like a good guy, but he was an evil dude. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I
It's
mean?
just
Like
yeah.
he
I don't know. Evil for no reason, but
evil for no reason.
yeah. It's just I don't know. Every now and then he just pop up just to add a bit of tension.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
oh, this guy's still here, and I mean he's determined. I'll give him that. But
yeah.
I mean, terrible death, poor guy.
Let's move on to the
And
music segment.
yeah. All right. So, for those of you who don't know, we have a segment every week called the music segment. We add a minimum of one or a maximum of two songs from every movie that we watch every week, and then we chuck that song or songs into a playlist on Spotify. And if you'd like to listen to the playlist, there's a link in the YouTube description. So, this week, I think the music in this movie, again, is average. Netflix, I think, needs to step up their music game.
Mm.
But I did enjoy the first song to come on and the end song, but in between, there's no real sort of standouts. Again,
I didn't really
um,
pay attention to the music in the film, really. Yeah,
yeah, it was quite forgettable,
yeah,
you know. So yeah, maybe Netflix. If you want to, if they want to get into that sort of that best picture category, you got to start,
stepping
adding
up.
some awesome cinematography
Yeah, for
and the
sure.
music and the direction and everything like that. But I think this movie is a plot focused movie, so we're willing to let it slide.
Mm.
But the song going in this week is Enola Holmes, and then in brackets, "The future is up to us," and it's the song that plays at the end. Um, I think it's very uplifting. It's a nice song,
Okay.
but nothing mind blowing. All right, so we'll move on to our final thoughts. Do you want to give your final thoughts and a bit of a tier ranking for this movie?
Yeah, let's do it. Um, so like I've said throughout this film isn't, the best film of 2020. It was a fun film and I really enjoyed it. And there was a lot of things that they could have done better, but it's kind of trying to choose that sacrifice of, this film probably is intended for a younger audience. Um, and then obviously, older people like us, we really cut down on this film and try to nitpick at everything. So it's kind of finding that balance in between, where kids enjoy it and then adults have a fun time as well.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, things like the music I didn't really pay attention to. The story was good. I like the casting. I think Henry Cavill was probably a standout for me, and Enola Holmes as well. Millie Bobby Brown was also really good.
yep.
Um, so I do think the casting was good, and it's great to see that Millie Bobby Brown is getting more action in the film industry rather than
Yeah.
just seeing her on Stranger Things, because I do like her character on Stranger Things. Um, the conclusion seemed a bit mishmashy for me, and certain characters like Tewkesbury, the bowler hat dude, and the rest of the family of Tewkesbury kind of seemed in certain points in the film it kind of seemed a bit useless, like we didn't really need to
Yeah,
see
for
them.
sure.
But they're all minor things,
Yeah.
and I think for that reason, it's kind of fitting that this film kind of stands, like a B minus rating for me.
Okay.
It's definitely above average because I enjoyed it, and it's similar to Onward in a way, where it had good pieces in it, but I was kind of taken away from it when it introduced this stuff that I didn't really want to see.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I see where you're coming from. I agree with most of those points. I think the story is like really quite charming and wholesome. Obviously, great performances all around, and yeah, I then agree. The Tewkesbury plot points and the sort of the side quests, it sort of sidetracked everything. I'm like, can we please get back to the main mystery element of the film, which obviously dwindles as it goes along. I think it's definitely a fun movie, light-hearted movie, that's for sure. And I think Sherlock fans, those diehard Sherlock fans, will enjoy this movie. And I think casual viewers like myself who've never really engaged with Sherlock Holmes material before will sort of enjoy it as well. So for me, I think there's probably more positive than negative, but I it's not anything particularly that stands out. I'm going to give it a solid B again today. So I'm going to put it on the same rating as The Devil All the Time. And look, that's fine. Netflix, as long as they keep bringing out okay to good movies,
Yeah.
then they'll do great. And they don't need to knock it out of the park every single time. But I feel like Netflix, they're building to something. I feel like in a couple of years. They might be contending for some best pictures, but we'll
Oh,
see.
100%. And I mean, obviously, they don't have, these big blockbuster budgets like the other films do. I think this film might have had under 100 million as its budget. Um,
Mm,
so it's definitely going to be that, the lower the budget, it's probably not going to be as good of a film. And obviously, there's, exceptions for that, like Joker. But
yeah.
most of the time, lower the budget means it's going to be a worse film. And by all means, it's not a bad film. It's just, it's had parts that kind of fell short, and it had really good parts as well.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, as I said before, like as a Netflix subscriber, if I really enjoyed this movie. I think it justifies that subscription price, that monthly subscription. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm a happy customer.
righty.
So thank you for listening, everybody, to this episode of the Rewatch podcast. If you'd like to follow us on Instagram, you can do so at the Rewatch Pod. If you'd like to subscribe to the YouTube channel, just search The Rewatch on YouTube. As we said at the start, we have some very exciting videos coming to the YouTube channel
I think we've got
very
a trilogy
soon.
coming out very soon.
Yes, it's going to be very exciting. So be sure to to subscribe there. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate all the support.
Yep.
Bye for now.
See ya.